dancers, Jess here. A couple of weeks ago, I sat down with Jenelle Manzi of New York City Ballet to talk about her journey in dance, as well as her new blog, JenelleManzi.com, where she shares recipes that she describes as indulgent yet functional foods, which I think is a really awesome concept. So I asked her all about it, and she shared her story about how she came to this place with food and what's inspired her to continue to move forward and eat foods that are not just delicious and enjoyable, but also serve her body and her dancing. I hope you like it. Thanks for checking it out. Tell me a little bit about yourself and your story in dance.
Okay, it's a long one. My grandmother took me to see the Nutcracker when I was 4 at New York City Ballet, and I saw Darcy Kistler dance, and I fell in love with ballet. And I was dancing around my house, and I think my mom just knew that I need to do something with this child. Like, she clearly needs to move. And I would always walk around on my knuckles. It was yeah, and I was always in a tutu, so I was enrolled in ballet, and then did my random dance class lessons in Ridgewood, New Jersey, and Waldwick. And then my mom kind of knew that the best training was in New York. And that was when I was around 10. I auditioned for SAB, and I got in, and then it was I was a part of their curriculum program, and my mom would drive me in every day. And then as the levels got more serious, that got harder just because I was still attending middle school in New Jersey, but I condensed all of my classes so that I would leave at 1:30 p.m. And that made it hard just because I wasn't a normal kid anymore. And this was when I want to say maybe 13, 14. And that was hard just because I didn't have a lunch break. I didn't have time to really hang out with friends from my real school. Whereas SAB, I started to make friends, but then I would go home at the end of the day. So it wasn't like I had a play date after ballet because I had to go home and do homework. So that was a hard, little period, but I also knew that I loved ballet so much, and I didn't really know anything else. I guess that was also it. So then when I was 16, I got asked to become an apprentice with the company. And I remember it was scary because there must have been a lot of injuries or something, because I ended up, so New York City Ballet, when you get your apprenticeship, you either perform 9 ballets and automatically get your contract, or you have that apprenticeship for the entire year and then are kind of evaluated throughout the year, and then either get your contract or don't get your contract after a year's time. And my friend Gretchen and I we call it getting thrown in. So when a dancer gets injured or sick, you get thrown into a ballet. And whether we were cast for certain ballets or getting thrown into certain ballets, it just quickly added up to 9. And so I got into the company within, I think it was 3 months, which was just so fast. And it was just a lot at once, but it was, a dream and amazing. And then I would say a year after that was when we were on tour at the Kennedy Center, which will be next week, or a week and a half. I felt this crazy fiery stab in my ankle on stage, and came off stage, and I had this giant green lump on my ankle, huge lump. And I got sent back to New York right away. Saw so many different doctors, and the swelling just wouldn't go down. Had all these tests, and it showed that I had severe tendonitis and 2 baby osteogonums, and they were floating. And osteogonums are extra bones in your feet. A lot of dancers deal with them. It's basically 1 in 3 people have them. And what they can do is they can create extreme pain and also a lack of movement in the ankle. And particularly ballet dancers deal with this because we're constantly pointing and flexing our feet, and it's the same with soccer players. And so I knew that the bones were there, but I was told that if I got a cortisone injection, that like it would most likely take away all the inflammation, and I would be back dancing within probably like 3 weeks. So I got the cortisone injection, went into the boot to kind of let the tendonitis heal. And when I got out of the boot, I still had the same pain. I still had the same swelling pattern. And it was kind of this, and I mean, this was when I was 17 going on 18. I was still finishing my senior year of high school. Because I remember I finally got out of the boot to wear cute flats to my high school prom. Yeah. Wow. Oh. So through this year was really hard for me just because it was a constant get in the boot, rest, I was trying to figure out like, what am I doing? I was just going to school at this point because this is what I trained my whole life to do. And I had gotten into the New York City Ballet. It was my dream. And here I was not able to do anything. And so that year was really hard just because I would see different doctors and get all these tests, and it just kind of was just showing tendonitis. And so finally, after a year I had gotten a few cortisone injections, I saw Dr. Hamilton was probably the first doctor I saw, and then also the last doctor I saw. And he was the one to resuggest exploratory surgery, which was kind of like where they go in and they think they know what they're going to fix, but they're also going to see what else is going on, because it was very clear that there was an inflammation pattern that wasn't really normal for just like extreme tendonitis. But they knew that they were going in to take out the bones because I wasn't responding to the cortisone. So sure enough, I remember it was like the first thing that I said that I asked when I woke up from the anesthesia was it torn? And sure enough, my tendon was like completely torn. I guess so I had to have that repaired, which meant that I was on crutches and in a hard cast for 9 weeks. And then it was just a very long period of time of not being able to dance, in and out of not being able to dance for a year, pretty much unable to dance for that whole year prior to that. And then finding out that I was going to be completely immobilized for 9 weeks time. And then in a boot cast for another, I don't even know, 4 to 6 weeks. And then it's learning how to walk in a pool. And it was beyond humbling and just a wake up call, really, just like, to have trained your whole life to do one thing, and you're given this amazing gift to have all of that stripped away and walking. I remember back and forth at Reebok Sports Club in a pool, taking step by step, like feeling shaky to like learn to walk. Mm-hmm. I was just like, wow. And through all of that, which to be fair was probably some of the darkest moments of my whole life. Looking back, I have never felt more grateful for where I am now and this gift I have, which is to dance, and to hopefully also be able to help other people that deal with injuries and issues like that going forward in the future, just because I've been there and it was so rough. And then the years after that too were also really difficult, just because you're dealing with compensation issues. So when you're out for a really long time, the body becomes imbalanced. And so you're dealing with other sorts of tendonitis on the other foot because it has to compensate for the lack of strength and ability of the other leg. So there were just all these different things that like just little bumps in the road, because the recovery is not usually like, it's very rare. And some people are very lucky to have like a smooth sailing recovery from a serious injury. And then there are usually just like little blips. So it took a long time. This is a long story, but so that was my beginning few years in the company. And I guess like my healing was always kind of questioned. Like they never really knew why I was always swelling so much, and things were just taking so long to calm down, and things were just always a bit discolored. And I had seen a rheumatologist, I remember, right after the Kennedy Center because they didn't understand why it was green and so massive. And this was always stuck in the back of my mind. Like I was wondering, like, I wonder like if I have, maybe there are other things like I don't know, or haven't figured out yet. But for me, like I was still really young, and I didn't really know about any of these things at all. But through my healing, trying to heal my injury, I was introduced to various doctors, and then through that, acupuncturists, and kind of learned about a new realm of healing, which is more natural. And I kind of found myself in a way. Like I really, acupuncture was so helpful for my scar, and I just felt more mentally at peace, and also my body was clearly responding. So after I was healthy from my injury and I was dancing with the company, I still constantly dealt with inflammation, swelling. My point shoes started to not fit. My joints were always kind of like just not normal. Like I didn't feel like I could feel my muscles fully. And that's kind of when I started experimenting with elimination diets. And I mean, I have like a bookshelf in the back, and that's like not even a quarter of the books that I own because the rest are in my parents' house in New Jersey. Thanks, Mom. But I started reading. Because I had caught up so much on undergraduate when I was injured and crutching to my class, I took a few semesters off to really just read about different forms of medicine and different ways of healing, from Ayurvedic medicine to traditional Chinese medicine to herbal healing. And I was just fascinated by all these different types of healing. And I started to experiment on my own, but then I just realized that I think it's also important to ask for help and to reach out to different types of healers because they're the experts. And I think that's not to say that they have the best way and the only way to tell you how to eat and heal, but which I think that's something for you to figure out after you get this information. But I think it's important to reach out to different people and see different people and learn what they have to say. And I think through that, you take bits and pieces of information from everyone and find what's best for you. And that's kind of what I did over the years. And through that, seeing a few different doctors and figuring out that, and having a biopsy done, which was not fun, figuring out that my body was super sensitive to gluten, which was probably like my main trigger, that and dairy. So I said goodbye to gluten, which was really sad. And this, like, it's amazing how, like, when you go through things in life, and you're put through these experiences, and I think there is a reason, and it's to teach you something, and it's to open up new doors, to learn more. And for me, taking out gluten not only helped my body heal and helped my joints function better, and my brain function better, my stomach function better, everything function better, but it also kind of led me to start baking and to even learning what's happening with our food system and here in the country, and learning how to eat local and according to seasons and all these different things that I didn't even really, I knew nothing about before. No idea. And to be fair, if I didn't have any sort of intolerance, I probably would have never looked into it as extensively as I do now. But the way I feel and how connected I feel to this way of living and thinking and wanting to share that, I wouldn't have it any other way, because I really feel that this is what I'm supposed to do. yeah, so that's kind of my journey. But ballet wise, I've never felt more at peace and more grateful to be able to dance. And New York City, like we perform the widest amount of rep, I think, in all of the world or close to it. And to have that opportunity to dance on that stage and travel with a company that you dreamed of working for your whole life, there's nothing like it. So I I love what I do so much and I put everything into it. And I'm excited to just dance. That's my story.
That's awesome. And it's great that, you know, the through injury that you were able to take so much out of it. I think that, like you said, going through an injury tends to be one of the darkest times for dancers. But I think if you use it, if you use it, it can be really valuable in life moving forward. And I liked how you said too that, if you hadn't had those intolerances, it's possible that you wouldn't have even really looked into the food piece as much as you did.
There would have been really no need.
Right. The thing is, a lot of people, even if they don't have a major intolerance, there's usually something that they feel in response to what they're eating. But I think we oftentimes get very used to just feeling that way.
Yeah. You don't really know like how good you can feel or how really like not great you feel after eating that because.
Right.
Yeah.
So I hope too that your thoughts around it will inspire people and dancers to
ultimately, I think what I want to do.
Yeah.
Or fuse everything together. Not quite sure.
Yeah.
Future's unknown.
That's awesome. So I read on your blog that you kind of describe the way you look at food as wanting it to be both indulgent and functional. Mm-hmm. What does that mean to you?
I mean, indulgent food is anything that you eat and it creates some sort of joy, and something that you look forward to eating. And I sometimes look forward to eating a salad, but a lot of the times, like, I don't. Like, sweets are these really yummy, delicious things. And I think you can create something indulgent when you use really high quality ingredients. So we're talking either like a really high quality butter or high quality cacao, really delicious jam made from fresh fruit picked from the market. Like there are just different. I think I love to highlight ingredients. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Basically, like when you combine really high quality fresh ingredients, you're able to create something that has a much more delicious flavor than if you were to just use kind of bland, mediocre ingredients that might not have that like fresh, zesty taste. So for me, I guess indulgent eating would be something obviously that you're eating that is really delicious. And there are so many things out there on the market that do taste delicious and are an indulgence, but sometimes when you eat them, they're not, you kind of feel sick afterwards. Like a block away from me is this bakery and they have these massive chocolate chip cookies. They're famous for them. And I remember I used to eat them. I used to go there and I would get one and I would eat the whole thing. And it was so good, but I cannot tell you how sick I would feel afterwards. And it was like one of those things where you crave this. I mean, you also crave sugar, and sugar isn't the best thing, which I'm sure we can go into too. But going down, you're just like, this is the best thing. This is so delicious. And then, so I guess for me, like, indulgent food sometimes also has its perks, and then it also has its not so good qualities. So kind of like trying to fuse indulgent and functional foods together. So functional foods, I guess, are things that help nourish the body, help energize you, help keep things running the way that they're supposed to run. And sometimes everyone's body's different and everyone needs more nourishing. Some people need more nourishing foods. That's just it. Like some of my friends can eat a lot different than I do, and they're perfectly fine and running maybe even better than I am, you know? And it's like, you just have to really listen to your body and really know what your body needs. And I think that, that is what functional foods are. Functional foods are, they have a function and they are supposed to provide your body with the proper nutrients and the exact things that it needs in order to make you feel your best, look your best, and perform your best. And so kind of my idea with starting to play around in the kitchen was to create delicious tasting things with also functional ingredients. So ingredients that nourish the body and provide you energy, but also taste really good. And this was a project probably like 5 years ago. And it's just kind of still a passion, and it's something that I look forward to continuing for a really long time.
That's awesome. I think it's great that you're marrying the indulgent with the functional, because I think all too often people think that in order for food to be
separate.
Right. And in order for it to be like serving you, it's got to be things you don't really enjoy eating, like just the salad or.
Yeah. You know. And I mean, all of this is not to say that like let's say there's a really delicious ice cream that I really want. I really, really rarely cheat with gluten. I don't have celiac, but I'm highly sensitive to it. Mm-hmm. It's really rare that I cheat at all, but there is a time and a place. And if you're at this incredible ice cream place like Soul and Straw in LA, I mean, there's a time and a place to indulge. And I think like when you create these functional foods that taste really delicious, you're able to indulge and not feel guilty and not overindulge. Like I don't feel the need to have like 6 scoops of ice cream because like I'm already kind of satisfied every day because I can eat these things that taste really good, but they're not technically very bad for you. So your body doesn't really feel the need to constantly you don't feel deprived. I guess that's what it comes down to, which is what leads to kind of unhealthy behavior and cravings. And yeah,
that's one of the biggest things that I work with younger dancers, especially on, is when they don't have that balance, mm-hmm. right, or that mindset around the concept of being able to indulge at times, and in fact that's going to serve them. Like you said, that is when people tend to fall into like binge eating or mm-hmm. Just
eating too many sweets. Like if you don't have certain things or like a little bit of chocolate, and then all of a sudden you see chocolate, you're like, I don't know when I'm going to get this again, and then you end up feeling sick and you regret eating it. And it's just kind of this constant cycle.
Did you go through any of that, or was it easy for you to find this balance with food?
I've always loved sweets, but I always noticed I never felt good after eating them. Like I wouldn't say that I honestly couldn't really eat that many. Like one of those giant cookies or like these big sundaes that my sister and I used to get, that would be it. It wasn't like and I know there are people that deal with binge eating disorders. Like I never really had that, mostly I think because I would just feel so sick after like a normal or like decent large size portion. But that was for me, it was more like, I don't feel good. Like I feel really sick. I have a terrible belly ache. Everything would be swollen the next day. And like, I just knew something was wrong. And like, I guess I was also frustrated because I noticed that other people that I would be eating these things with everyone else. And I would be like, do you feel this way? Like I would just be curled up in a ball, or like my rings, like my hands would be all swollen. My point shoes wouldn't fit. And it was just kind of like not many other people felt like that. And I was like, okay, something is not right. Like this is not something, my body's telling me like something, we don't like something. And so for me, like that was pretty much the reason why, in addition to getting diagnosed with food allergies, why I kind of started this whole thing.
How would you categorize your eating style?
Plant-based.
Mm-hmm.
My body does better on animal protein. I've tried pretty much every diet in 5 years, like over 5 years. And I have an incredible nutritionist. Her name is Donna James, and I will most likely be putting her on my website very soon because she really, really helped me kind of navigate through a lot of my sensitivities and intolerances and find ways to eat in a way that I felt my best and energized. And even, I mean, we could go into hormone balance and all these things that are really important for young girls. And obviously for me now, a way of eating that was the answer to all of my body's needs. And I think it takes a long time to do that on your own, and it is possible. And a lot of the elimination stuff is kind of by yourself. But I think for me, it was really important to kind of have that guidance and that cheerleader in a way. She really was really, and still is. I saw her in LA, and I have a whole new protocol. And it actually was to add in more animal protein because I had been taking out a bit more again to kind of see how my body would respond. Because I think we're always interested in how other people eat. And sometimes if someone that you're hanging out with, or even when I'm in LA, I tend to eat more plant-based because a lot of the restaurants I love are vegan. And I just kind of wondered like if I would do better on a even more plant-based diet. But my energy levels and the way I just feel really not good. So I tend to eat plant-based, but also not much dairy, no gluten, not much cane sugar. Cane sugar would be maybe in like a flourless chocolate cake that I would have like from out to dinner, and I'll have like a bite or two or something like that. But I don't have cane sugar in my apartment. But that's how I feel most satisfied and my best. And yeah, so.
Awesome. Yeah. What's your preferred sweetener?
Coconut sugar, it's hard. It depends on what you're making. Coconut sugar, maple syrup, or dates. But I don't use that much sugar. It's not like the body does not love sugar at all. So as little as possible. Sometimes you can use like, I'm obsessed with kabocha squash. I think that's how you pronounce it. Putting that in smoothies now as like a thickener instead of like too much banana, just because there's less sugar, but it also adds that really, really yummy buttery texture without the excessive amount of sugar. And bananas don't have that much sugar, but when you're looking sometimes at these smoothie bowls posted on Instagram, like some of them look so beautiful because they literally contain four bananas.
Yeah.
No one should be eating that much sugar in one sitting. Once in a while, but it's maybe okay. But if you're eating that every day, if you're eating that many bananas a day, your body will most likely become intolerant to bananas. But yeah, those are I would say like a date or two, or coconut sugar. Too much it. Or maple syrup is really good, like a touch in matcha lattes lately. I don't know what it is. It's like that rich taste that I love.
It's amazing too when you stop eating so much sugar, how much you taste it.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. Everything. A lot of the times, like I have issues with that if I'm baking something because I'll think something's sweet and it's actually not that sweet. It's mostly my dad. My dad has a huge sweet tooth and loves his junk food. And I'll go home and he'll say like, well, it's not very sweet. And I'm like, I know. Well, it isn't very sweet, but it's also when your taste buds get used to, like you said,
right,
eating less sugar, everything tastes sweet.
Yeah. You know, another good thickener for smoothies is zucchini.
Yes.
Not so much for sweet, but
kind of a pain in the butt.
Yes.
Because you have to do the freezer thing, which is annoying. Sometimes I do it now, but then like sometimes I'm worried I'm going to break my blender. So instead of like freezing all the individual pieces, which is, I think, a pain, and I meal prep every week, but that just takes a long time.
Oh yeah.
And I also have a tiny freezer.
Yeah.
And I have like all these different things in my freezer. So it's just like shifting things and moving things, and it just kind of becomes a pain. But I'll put like a little block and I'll wrap it in parchment paper and then put all of them in like a glass thing and then put it in the freezer.
Nice.
Then you like take it out. But I love zucchini. I haven't really had luck with cauliflower. It kind of bothers my stomach.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, you know how some people book their smoothies now with cauliflower?
Yeah.
I like it, but I can only have like a little bit. I tend to do more of like the squashes. Sweet potato is also amazing. Avocado, a little banana. My skin hates banana. It's really sad.
Oh, that is sad.
Half of one. There was like a whole probably 2-year period where I couldn't have them at all.
That's such a bummer.
Yeah. And I've like slowly integrated them back in, but I notice that if I have like more than one a day, like I start breaking out again.
Wow. Yeah, you're really sensitive to sugar, huh?
So sad.
Yeah. That is really sad.
Yeah.
Let's see. What I was going to ask, how long do you spend meal prepping every week?
Let's see. On Mondays, probably like an hour or two. It's not that much time. It's mostly roasting vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't include going shopping for them, probably.
Yeah.
But just roasting veggies, making like some rice, quinoa, roasting like salmon or chicken, depending on the week. It's not that much time. It's really pretty. Once you have it down and you have like your go-tos and kind of your ideas to like what you want to make or like what things you might want to create throughout the week, like it's not that hard. And I tend to do, so I'll do that on Monday, and then after the show, like usually by Thursday, I've run out of most of my things because no one really wants to eat vegetables that they roasted 4 days prior already. It's kind of, so I usually cook for like 3 days, and that's during season.
Mm-hmm.
Right now during layoff, I tend to go out to eat with friends or travel, or just want to try different things that I normally don't have time to do. I don't have time to try.
Right.
So I meal prep a lot less. I meal prepped a few things this week. Like I roasted some kabocha squash and broccoli and some asparagus. And then depending on whether I want to make like a salad with some of those veggies or put that on a pasta or something I'm making for dinner. Like last night I roasted salmon. It's nice to kind of not have to, I think about the salmon and maybe like what dressing I want to make or another side that I want to make, but then I already have like some of those other things that I can like throw into the mix. And it just makes for creating meals throughout the day like a lot easier. Yeah. So it doesn't take that much time.
No, it's one of those things though that I think dancers, until they've fully wrapped their heads around it and have, like you said, those go-to meals that they're like, I know I like eating this and can do the prep in a couple of hours, I think it seems very daunting.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, I didn't start doing this until like 4 years ago, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even, thinking about it, I'm like, what did I do before? I would literally run out on my hour break.
Yeah.
I would go to Melissa's Deli or Alan's Deli, and I would get a salad that was kind of mushy. And by the time I got back, I only had a half hour to eat it. And yeah, it's crazy to think about.
What advice would you give to a dancer who's like trying to figure out what the best way for her personally to eat is?
It depends on how serious you want to get, but I would say sometimes journaling, just like, I mean, an elimination diet and also kind of a diary. If you're really feeling, most of the time, if you're feeling great, continue eating the way you're eating. But if you're not feeling great, I think it's important to maybe pick a breakfast that you're eating for 3 days and eat that every day, and kind of write down how you feel an hour after, 2 hours after, and just kind of like think about that. And then 3 days later, pick a different breakfast, eat that breakfast, kind of journal, figure out. And it sounds excessive, but do that with every meal. And I think you're your body's best doctor at times, and you'll be able to pinpoint which foods and which meals of the day you're not quite feeling so great. You're not feeling as energized. Your stomach's bloated. Your stomach hurts. You feel nauseous. You get a headache. Like there are signs that the body gives you that are clear signs as to whether it likes something or it doesn't like something. And I think it's really important to kind of understand that your body's going to give you these signs. And the easiest way is to kind of have that visual of writing it down and looking and kind of putting it out in front of you and really being able to map out and see things, which is what I've found to be the most helpful.
Yeah, I love that. I do that with dancer clients as well. Yeah, that's one of the things that we do, because like you said, that's the only way you're going to see it and really think about it.
Yes.
And not just be like, oh, that one day I wasn't feeling great, or, you know, and it's hard to make that connection unless you are sitting down and specifically, like you said, mapping it out.
Exactly. And I think working with a nutritionist sometimes can really help. Because they can kind of, they see people they see people with different patterns and different issues every single day. And I think sometimes there were things that I wasn't quite putting together, that my nutritionist was able to put together a lot faster. I think like you would be able to do that, but I think if you do have access to a great nutritionist, I think it's important to see one so that you can kind of have some sort of guidance in this path.
Yeah, definitely.
We work together. It's a team, and what's more beneficial than a team, you know?
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts or advice or things you want to share?
Advice. I think it's just listen to your body. I think you will be your happiest, most energized self, balanced self too, when you listen to your body and the signs that it gives you, and eating according to those signs.
Yes.
That's
good advice.
Yeah.
Sage advice.
Yeah, it really is true. And I think we have a tendency, I think ballet dancers have a tendency to compare ourselves to people.
Oh, yeah.
Well, she can eat that way, and why does she look like that? And the moment you just have to put those blinders on and really just focus on you and focus on just think about yourself as this goddess. Like you need to fuel your body and kind of just hone in on the you know, and I spent so many years comparing myself, and those were probably my most unhappy years and least confident years, and all have a reason to be confident, and you just have to figure out what that reason is.
Yeah.
And I think that that's also another important lesson.
Absolutely. No, I love that. Thank you so much, Jenelle.
Hey, you're welcome.
So where can we find you?
You online? Can find me on my website, JenelleManzi.com. It's very creative.
That's a very smart web address, honestly.
Yeah, I will. I'm working on a few things, and I'm excited to start sharing different, not just baking things, but also injury tips and other things. And I'm very much looking forward to sharing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm excited to see in what direction you take everything.
Thank you so much. This was fun.
Yeah.